Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, be Brandon Davies. Smash that like button. And if you're one of us, let the world know in the chat and in the comments. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, please do that wherever you subscribe to podcasts like Apple and Spotify. Let's get into it. And, buddy, Tuesday night was awesome. UConn over Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse. North Carolina over Kentucky at Rupp Arena. We're going to get to those, but I do want to start at Cameron Indoor Stadium, where we got a fun one on Tuesday. Final score, number 4, Duke 67, number 15, Florida 66. Duke finished with 6-7. I was watching with my little guys. Oh, they really enjoyed that.
I think the 6-7 thing is like long since passed, but
they recognized it in real time. They
I very much did not until you just brought it up on the show.
They seem to enjoy it. The Blue Devils led by as many as 15 points, but trailed the final minute. That's when Isaiah Evans came to the rescue. Made a 3 with 21 seconds left, put Duke ahead 67-66, and then got a deflection on Florida's final attempt to inbound, score, and win. Look at Duke. Look at Duke putting a man on the inbounder. I guess you can learn from other people's past mistakes. So Duke is now 9-0 with wins over Kansas, Florida, Arkansas, and Texas. Duke is 3-0 against the SEC, 1-0 against the Big 12. And I apologize for possibly burying the lead, but Cameron Boozer got 29 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. He was 10 of 21 from the field. Awesome again. Norlander, good to see you on this. I guess it's a Wednesday morning. Hit your little button. Let's go, Duke. Let's go, Duke.
Oh, I got many of them. Okay, so you want that one? Want this one?
Let's go, Duke. Come on.
I figured Wednesday morning, that kind of win.
Come on, Duke.
I thought that might be there.
Let's go.
Yeah, I got all sorts of ones. And you know what? For the most part, they played some good
defense.
Yeah, they did a nice job last night. First time Florida had been in Cameron, by the way, since December 9 of 98. Duke now leads this all-time series 15-4. Yes, these two teams, even though they don't share a conference, have played 19 times over the years. Duke got another win. This, by the way, it could have been the title game matchup last year, as a reminder. Did not go that way because of what Houston did to Duke. And then what Florida did to Houston, Duke then kind of did to Florida on Tuesday night, with Florida not even be able to get off a shot on what turned out to be, I guess, the penultimate possession with Boogie Fland. Ironically enough, after being a big-time player in the second half, he coughs it up, turns it over. And then, yes, Malik Brown, who is on the short list of best defenders in college basketball, had a number of good plays, but then the deflection that doesn't even allow Florida a chance at some hope on the last play of the game winds up getting it done there. Isaiah Evans, we see this every so often. Guy is cold all night, but, they say shooters shoot. I say shooters make, and eventually he did. His 8th three-point attempt of the night was his only make. He gets that done. And while Boozer was awesome again, he's had back-to-back games. Credit to our CBS Sports research team for this stat. He's the first Duke player with back-to-back games in which he had 25 or more points against ranked teams, since J.J. Redick in 2006. Yeah. So Boozer was awesome again. He's the best player in the sport right now. I am the acting president of the United States Basketball Writers Association for this season.
Oh, look who's bragging.
Parrish, pipe down over there. I'm setting up why I said that.
Who's bragging?
I wanted to introduce a new element here for this season, and that is a player of the month. You see it in the NFL, you see it in the NBA, you see player of the month, rookie of the month, you see it in baseball. Why can't college basketball have a player of the month award? So we are doing that now this year with the USBWA. And so we there's 11 of us on the board, sent out the ballots, and Boozer, before this game, we sent out the ballots, and he was the first place vote getter, I think, on 9 of the 11 ballots, just definitively the best player in college basketball through the first month plus of the season. And he backed that up with what they did on Tuesday night. But it wasn't just him. Like, Patrick Ngongba had maybe his best all-around game in a Duke uniform last night, and I thought that was critical. He had 5+ rebounds, 5+ assists, 5+ blocks. He's only the second player in the past 15 years in a Duke uniform to do that. 5 or more rebounds, 5 or 4 dimes, and 5 or more blocks in a game. Mark Williams did it in 2022. So Good stuff for him there as well. Boozer, obviously the overwhelmingly most important player on the floor, but Duke is still undefeated. It still hasn't put everything together, and that's a scary thought to think that this is, top 3, top 4 team in the country, Parrish. And I would certainly argue this team has not had a complete performance yet. It's probably coming. It's not as overwhelmingly loaded and talented like the team a season ago, but Shire's getting it done again, and credit to Florida for making that push. But Duke found a way when it mattered most in the final couple of possessions to get it done.
I know it's only December 3rd, so long way to go, but Cameron Boozer is like clearly the national player of the year at this point, and there's really not a competition. I think we've got a dribble handoff scheduled to publish at some point, and it's like at this point in the season, who would be the national player of the year? And like if anybody puts anything other than Cameron Boozer, it's just wrong. Right?
We might need to rethink that topic. If there's no other alternatives, we might need to go back to the drawing board there and figure out like who's most likely to catch Boozer or something. Because there's really not at this point. Braden Smith's been awesome. I get that. There's been a lot of really good players. Boozer just has the lead with a little bit of distance right now. Could change.
Yeah, I mean he's averaging 23.6 points, 9.3 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.7 steals, 1 block per game. That does not lead Duke in every statistical category anymore. So we've fallen off that a little bit, I believe, because of the blocks. But clearly the player of the year at KenPom, they have a KPOY, KenPom
the
player of the year.
Come on, the K-Poy, let's go.
You call it K-Poy?
K-Poy. Real ones call it a K-Poy.
Oh, I didn't realize that. They have a K-Poy rating over there. I have no idea how they figure it out, but it's 2.366 for Cameron Boozer right now. Second is Joshua Jefferson at Iowa State. Shouts to Joshua Jefferson at Iowa State. 1.567. If you're curious, last season, Cooper Flagg finished at 2.734. Janai Broome was 2.317. So it appears that Cam Boozer right now is somewhere between Cooper Flagg and Janai Broome, but miles ahead of anybody else in the country. Yes, he would clearly be the best player. He's clearly the best player in the country right now. He would be the national player of the year right now. And I know a lot of people had sort of zeroed in on a AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson debate for the number 1 pick in the draft. But as we've talked about before, Cameron Boozer is clearly going to have to be a part of that conversation. He has been excellent. And oh, by the way, congrats to Isaiah Evans on hitting that shot. I mean, that's a big shot in a big moment. He was wide open because everybody went with Cam Boozer. I mean, everybody just went with Cam Boozer. And he just looked up and it's like, man, there is nobody close to me. I guess I'll shoot this. And hey, you got to make it. But you can argue that Cam Boozer created that moment just as much as anybody else did.
No question about it. By the way, I love when you start referencing data and statistics and you have no idea what it means. I need the Austin Powers. Not a lot. I need that on my board.
Okay. You ready? You ready for this? Explain K-Poy. Go ahead, nerd.
I'm not the one who invoked it. You invoked it. I'm not the one who invoked it.
I have just noticed that people, myself included, we are constantly like talking about wins above replacement and wins above bubble and all these numbers, and most people don't have any idea most people have no idea what they mean or how we get to them. We just decided that all these things mean something, and I'm not sure they always do.
Fair enough. Good win for Duke, to say the least. I will say on Florida, Thomas Houck, 24 points. He is playing like an All-American. Flan was good in the second half for sure, but Houck was the most consistent player on the floor. He is living up to what they wanted him to be. The Gators overall are not. Now, as I said on HQ last night, I genuinely give Florida credit for pulling itself together and taking the lead at Cameron, but this is a team that lost to Arizona on the opening night of the season. Got done in by TCU last week and then couldn't get it done on the road against Duke. The next game is in a week. I'll be there at the Garden, Jimmy V. They'll play a UConn team. Huskies fans, we're getting to your squad in just a minute here. But 5-3 overall. It is a quality team that was overrated to come into the season, but I don't know. I was as, I guess, impressed by them in a losing effort as I possibly could be. Like the turnover is, that's atrocious. You don't even get the shot off. That's bad. You were limited by Duke, but that's what Duke does. Like Duke has held every team under its scoring average for the entire season. Florida's 66 points were the lowest they had scored all season. They came into the game averaging 86 a game, and they wind up dropping, 20 points below that. So notable on the Duke defensive end. But I thought for them to even maintain their composure and really just dig in. I mean, if you watch that second half, possession by possession by possession by possession, they were chipping away, and they eventually got the lead. And then, games can come down to those final 2 or 3 possessions. That's exactly what happened here. And if, Flan takes care of the ball a little bit better, we might have a different story, but they didn't. Duke's the better team. It comes out with the win.
Xavier Lee, 1 of 10 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. So that's 8 games, 8 starts, and he's shooting 24.7% from the field, 21.1% from 3. I don't have any interest in being mean, but we can talk about this like adults. He was paid a lot of money to transfer to Florida, and so far it looks like money poorly spent. Forget the numbers. I mean, don't forget the numbers, because the numbers are important and they're bad. But just put your eyes on him. He doesn't look like he doesn't look like an SEC level guard. I mean, is that too harsh? I don't mean to be harsh, but the numbers are the numbers. And then when you just put your eyes on him, he looks like a mid-major player trying to be shoehorned into a high major starting lineup with national championship aspirations. And it feels a little bit like, again, I don't mean to be harsh, but it feels a little bit like the Aiden Mahaney thing. Like you go plug this mid-major guard who had done some nice things at that level, and he probably just belongs at that level. You disagree with any of that?
I think it's a little too harsh, and this is
it might be.
Lee's bigger, more toned. He's a bigger player than Mahaney was, for sure. The shooting is a big issue. He's got some capabilities to actually, to defend the idea that he would be a starting guard on an SEC school. I think he can actually get there, but I don't think that he's the kind of game-changing guard that they're going to need in order to finish atop the SEC, to get a 1 seed again. And he's not their only issue, but it is stark when you check in 8 games into the season. He's 21% from beyond the arc. He's 24.7% shooting from the field at this point. He still is distributing it plenty, but defensively, there's some limitations there at the high major level. So he is becoming, I think, the biggest target for Florida's 5-3 start. There have been some other issues, but I think that's been one of the most glaring for sure. But to be fair, Florida's been the front court for the most part, I think, has lived up to, for the most part, not entirely, its preseason standing as arguably the best in the country. Really, really good at getting on the boards, and that's been the case. They were pretty good overall, both ends against Duke. They could have been better, but they certainly weren't lacking in that department. But for everything that Hauck has been able to do, Condon was a preseason first-team All-American, which according to the Associated Press voter, that was a big overshoot because Hauck's the team's best player. But even still, Condon, who has been dinged up, he was able to play and get on the floor last night. I think between him, Hanlogin, Chin Liu, they can still do collectively a little bit more here. So I'm not saying you are putting it all on Lee, but I think he's becoming the primary target for the criticism against the Gators, and I think there's a little more room to be spread around for blame.
That's fair. Up next, it stays difficult for both teams, like you said. Florida is off until it plays UConn at the Garden on Tuesday. Duke is at Michigan State on Saturday. Right now, KenPom only projects Duke to be projected as an underdog. It only projects Duke to be an underdog, rather, in 3 games going forward. At Michigan State on Saturday, that's one of them, and just barely. At Louisville on January 6th, and against Michigan on February 21st in our nation's capital. So what number did John Shire need to get to have most wins through the first whatever years of a career? Because he's obviously on track.
I want to say it was 20. I'm 29, maybe.
Yeah, take the over. I'm trying to tell you to take the over, because barring a surprise, it appears he's going to get there. Let's move on. As previously noted, Tuesday night was loaded and awesome. We just got through with Duke and Florida. UConn won at Allen Fieldhouse. UNC won at UK. Syracuse upset Tennessee. We're going to get to all of that next. First, let's get a word from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, before we dive into North Carolina, Kentucky, Josh reminded me this morning that those Spotify year-end wraps are happening. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they just pop into your phone, I guess.
Yeah, by the way, we appreciate the love. Please send us some. It's December 3rd. Like, we can't do this on December 19th. It's just weird to me. Like, year end, we have another month to go. But that's just a personal pet peeve. That's
Yeah, like what would happen if like Taylor Swift dropped an album tomorrow?
exactly. Yeah. What if we dropped an album tomorrow?
What if we dropped an album tomorrow?
You think I won't pick up this guitar right here and drop an album on you? Think I
So
won't do that?
So if you've got a Spotify wrap and it says "Eye on College Basketball Podcast" somewhere in it, Josh is collecting those, I guess. Is Josh collecting those? Is he a collector of those?
Josh, you're welcome to hop in real quick if you'd like before we keep it moving. And also use the hashtag more of us, obviously.
Of course.
Be it on any social media platform, although I don't think the podcast exists anywhere other than Twitter. But regardless, if Instagram, whatever, more of us, the whole deal. Yes.
What do you think your most listened to podcast of the year would be?
That's Dan Patrick Show. I'm a near daily listener, so that would be. But I don't listen on Spotify. So, but Dan Patrick Show for sure. Those are my guys.
That is interesting. It is interesting what people listen to. Mine would probably be like I listen to a podcast every morning that like updates you on the news.
Some murder, I'm sure. That's what it is.
No. It's like 10 minutes. It's like hey, here's everything that's awful that's going on in the world that you need to know about. We can tell you everything you need to know in 10 minutes so that you don't walk through life the rest of the day sounding like an idiot. And we got to keep it moving here. But the one that I discovered like a year ago that's actually pretty good. This one is called Strangers on a Bench. It's some British guy. He walks up to someone on a bench in England and they talk and people just pour out their life stories in 30 minutes. Really, really cool. Random, just a different. It's once a week and it's my real change of pace podcast. So give that a go if you haven't. I'd be really bothered if somebody came up and just started sitting next to me.
I've thought about this. I would willingly do it. I'm assuming he gets as many no's as he does yeses, but he gets enough yeses. Really.
But you know what though? I actually can see how that works because people like talking about themselves. If you tried to sit down next to somebody and tell them your life story for 30 minutes, they would blow their brains out. But people like talking about themselves. So if you just sit down and be like, so who are you? What's going on? Where are you from? People like to talk about themselves.
I hear you.
That's why everybody in the world has a podcast.
That's correct. Guilty as charged here, by the way. But we're going 15 years strong. Send us your Spotify raps. We want to promote the show, promote you, give our thanks for you guys showing us some love. So please be sure to do that. And if there's anything interesting along the way with that, we certainly can. We actually did get an interesting note this morning, but I'll see if I can get to that before the end of the show. You might be asked to do another impression. We'll see if you're game to do it, but we'll stave that off for now. We have to get to what happened in Lexington last night. Poll up right now. We'll get to the results in a few here. You know, what was the most meaningful outcome of the night? And two of the options are Carolina winning or Kentucky losing. So we'll start there, GP. To you, what's more significant? UNC going on the road and remaining a one-loss team, or Kentucky losing another game here and dropping to what, 5-3? Where's Kentucky overall? Where's my document?
Yeah, 5-3.
5-3 overall. What's the bigger deal to you?
Kentucky losing at home. Like if North Carolina would have lost 67-64 at UK, I'd have said, hey man, you're going into Rupp Arena. You know, I'm a building truster. It is what it is. But for UK to already have a third loss in 8 games, to still be sitting here with 0 good wins. They've got roster problems. It looks like they got chemistry problems. Undeniably, they got shooting problems. It's a mess right now. I mean, they spent reportedly $22 million on a basketball team. Can't shoot. I mean, $22 million for a team that shoots 33% from 3. That ain't good spending. And like the Jalen Lowe thing is unfortunate and weird. The Jaden Quaintance thing is just, he looks good sitting on the bench, but he looks better standing on the court, and he's not there yet. And so they've got like almost everything that could go wrong with them has gone wrong. And the result is a 5-3 record. It doesn't mean that they can't get things turned around. Seasons are long, but the first month of the season, they're right up there as one of the more surprising disappointments that the sport has.
Yeah, we'll talk Kentucky first, then we'll get to Carolina. Kentucky has lost 7 of its last 8 games against ranked teams dating back to last season. This is the worst 8-game start to a season since the COVID year. Now, that Kentucky team was an outright disaster. 9-16, missed the tournament. This team isn't going to do that, you would not think. But regardless, not good whatsoever. They went more than 11 minutes of game time without landing a field goal in the second half. The game actually had 14 lead changes and 9 ties. It was a gripping watch, but it was also a rough watch. It actually sprung to mind some of the Calipari teams that sometimes would have these droughts and have some of these struggles here. 1 of 13 from 3-point range. Yeah. Obviously, the worst performance from beyond the arc by any Pope coach team in Lexington. That is an immediately infamous stat line in Lexington, to go 1 of 13 in addition to going more than 11 minutes of game time without a field goal. They also didn't have Mo Diabate in this game as well. So Quayton hasn't played yet this season. Lowe, who the hell knows when he's coming back from the shoulder deal. Mo Diabate wasn't available as well. So they were limited to begin with. You still should win the game, especially with the way Carolina was playing. But yeah, Kentucky is pedestrian from 3-point range right now. It's not awful. It's just average, right? And it doesn't get to the line a lot. It's not producing a lot of points. That offense from a year ago, when Pope and Kentucky were picking off top 15 opponents and they were just a fun offense to watch, that has disappeared almost entirely. And Mark David Cobb was on hand last night. He just had a column go up early on Wednesday morning. And on a night when Kentucky had the new football coach in the building, introduced him, and great vibes there. They bring over the Oregon coordinator. That's now way down the list of pertinent items in Lexington after they got rid of Mark Stoops, because Kentucky, I was wrong. At least I'm proven to be wrong right now with where they are. I had preseason number 3, but that one's on me. I was wrong. 5-3. Gonzaga is going to Nashville to play Kentucky on Friday. We will preview that game on our next podcast. But now that becomes immediately urgent. Gonzaga looked like a top 5 team in the country before Michigan did what Michigan did, and that might just be a Michigan thing, not a Gonzaga thing. So, yes, this is I said it the last time after the Michigan State loss, but it remains a crisis. And in particular, Pope told me after the Michigan State loss that they had Loyola Maryland and they had Tennessee Tech, and then they had the Thanksgiving break. And in essence, he said, the 2 bye games and a little bit of rest time, this is the critical part of our non-conference schedule. And it's not because we have a high quality opponent. It's because we need to, and this is all paraphrasing, but we need to go back to the drawing board, figure out what we can fix, get it right, so we know who we can be before we get to SEC play, because we can't have a repeat performance like what we put on against Louisville and Michigan State. Well, in some ways it was, in some ways it wasn't, but it's a home loss against a UNC team who's solid, but not looked as a top 10 quality team. And yes, Pope is under some real heat here for, it's a continuation of what I said after the Michigan State loss, but for the first time in his career. And if a loss comes against Gonzaga on Friday, then it's going to be it's Kentucky. That fan base, it'll be sky is falling kind of stuff there. I was surprised Kentucky did not win on Tuesday night. I honestly thought, even without Diabate, I thought they'd find a way to get it done. UNC didn't have Seth Trimble, didn't stop the Tar Heels from getting out there with a win.
Yeah, coaches always talk about never getting too high, never getting too low, but that fan base doesn't subscribe to that. They get really high when things are good, and they get really low when things are bad. And I always appreciative of coaches creating compelling non-league schedules, but I mean, they look like a team that needs another bye game or 4 right now, and they don't have a lot of time to breathe. I mean, it's Gonzaga and then North Carolina Central, but then after that it's Indiana and St. John's. I mean, so they're in a stretch right now where they've got to get some things fixed very quickly, or else they could reasonably look up and they're hovering around 500 or worse. So it's just I think another example of where we are in the sport right now. Everybody is, not everybody, but lots of teams are remaking rosters in a matter of months, if not weeks, every offseason, and just throwing money around to try to get talented pieces and then seeing how it fits. and sometimes it works, and other times it can be more complicated. And I think for a variety of reasons right now at Kentucky, things are complicated. Like the Quaitons thing was always going to be he was never going to be available immediately. And so that is what it is. But the Jalen Lowe thing has really thrown a wrench into everything because every time I ask somebody a question about it, I don't hear good things. Nobody has great answers when I say, what's going on there? The things you hear they're not wonderful.
No, it's a major problem. By the way, both these teams are coming off of, pretty definitive losses. Again, their most recent high major result was Michigan State taking them out. Carolina responded beautifully. They, of course, lost to Sparty on Thanksgiving, and then they get this win to get to 7-1. So UNC has the home win over Kansas in addition to with the Kentucky win. That's really, really solid stuff. Derek Dixon winds up being the hero, the final minute hero, hits the 3 on a broken play, makes another big play, I think 2 possessions later after that, and just steps up in a spot where if Seth Trimble is healthy, Derek Dixon's not on the floor in this game to begin with, you would think. But yes, a name that unless you're a diehard Carolina fan, you don't know, and with good reason. I mean, he's a freshman. He was not, expected to be a top 8 guy in the rotation, but here he steps in, and I mean, for a short time, at least it's going to make Hubert Davis thinking about how he splits time with Kyan Evans at the point. We'll see. Now, Dixon's a bigger player. I thought that was really impressive. And for UNC, by the way, this was the first win at Rupp in almost 18 years to the day. The last time they actually won in Rupp was December 1 of 2007. And they had lost 8 of their last 9 games that were not at home against ranked teams. So they got off the schneid there as well. Good stuff out of Hubert Davis's team. This is a coach who entered the season on, I think, as hot a seat as almost anyone, if not anyone in the country. And this is a really, really nice way to start. It was a good night for the ACC. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Tar Heels 7-1. Now you've got a road win on the resume. You're feeling good. Next game is against Georgetown. Then it's some bye opponents before the CBS Sports Classic against the Buckeyes later this month. But credit to the Tar Heels for getting it done. Henry Visar had himself a really nice game last night as well. And what was, let's be very honest and blunt about this. This was not a fun watch. You can call it gritty if you'd like, sure, but they were tossing up some bricks here with regularity. But Carolina doesn't, like, you're on the road, blue blood game, 2 ranked opponents. Win by 1, win by 30, whatever. Just get out of there however you can with the victory and get it done. And Carolina did. Congrats to them.
Let's get to Allen Fieldhouse. Final score, number 5, UConn 61, number 21, Kansas 56. I believe, based on my research, that is the first time Bill Self has ever lost a game as an underdog at Allen Fieldhouse. Heading into last night, Kansas had only been an underdog 2 times in 22 years at home under Bill Self. It was once to Baylor in the 2021 season when the Bears won the national championship.
They weren't a dog at home at all last season. I feel like I talked about this on the show. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about this, but I thought there was something that happened last year that snapped. I could be wrong on that.
I didn't see one last season. I found 2. It was 2021 Baylor, 2024 Houston, and they were underdogs in both of those games, but won them both. So Bill Self was 2-0.
They lost the game to Houston at home last season. Remember, Houston had that insane comeback, right?
Yeah, but they were probably favored in that game.
Okay.
I'm saying strictly as an underdog at home.
Got it. Okay. So they were not. So you're saying, sorry, I'm like ripping up our GP stat here. Yeah. You're saying last season when Kansas hosted Houston and Houston had that insane escape, going into that game, Kansas was actually favored to win, which is.
I'll need to double check. But at the very least, let's put it here.
Kansas, so what happened was there was a time. No,
Kansas was an underdog last night. That is very rare for Bill Self inside Allen Fieldhouse. And obviously, both teams shorthanded. We knew early in the day Darren Peterson wouldn't play. We found out later that Terrace Reed would not be in uniform for the Huskies. Mm-hmm. So UConn goes in there, gets a nice performance from Braylon Mullins, and Bill Self takes a rare home loss inside Allen Fieldhouse. What'd you make of what you saw from UConn last night?
Okay, we'll start with UConn, then we'll wrap with KU. my two biggest takeaways were Braylon Mullins in his second game in a Husky uniform going for 17 points and showing why the talk about him in the preseason and even in the first few weeks of the season when he wasn't available, when many in that program, but also just in the media, folks like you and me were saying, once he's involved, you're going to see that UConn's ceiling is going to be that much higher. You're going to see how much better of a team they can be. You saw that. They didn't have Terrace Reed available in this game, and yet UConn's able to go on the road and is able to hold Kansas to its fewest points at the credit with ESPN with this stat. Its fewest points at home in a non-conference game ever under Bill Self. There had never been a game where Kansas was so anemic on offense as it was last night. Credit to Hurley and that staff for that scheme. They obviously helped get that done. The defense showed up big, but Mullins, what he was able to do, I thought was key. And then Caravan, quite clearly, with the way the game was playing out, some stuff in the first half, some stuff in the second half, I think Caravan had what? He only had maybe, did he have 11 last night? But he had he had 1 3 that I thought was huge. He had a couple of plays where he got to the rim and kept UConn just pushing Kansas. I thought that was big as well. In addition to Solo Ball, had himself a nice night overall. So the Huskies here with a very challenging non-conference schedule. They get their first win ever against Kansas. They're now 1-4. They are 12-2 in their last 14 non-conference home game road games against AP teams, which is just mighty impressive. And the fact that they won this game on the road against KU, which didn't have Peterson, I do want to get to that, but they were 7 of 26 from beyond the arc. They didn't even have a good night shooting. They hit 7 triples, but they launched a ton. They didn't make a ton. Terrace Reed is the team's leader in points, in rebounds, and blocks. They don't even have him available, and they get it done. They were able to assert themselves in the paint, which is notable because Badunga had himself a nice enough game, but UConn outscored Kansas by 10 points in the paint, 30-20. They outscored them in the bench. They had 7 blocks and 5 steals. All around, really impressive stuff for a Huskies team that, gets a week break before it faces Florida next week in MSG. Your thoughts on Hurley's group before we get into the Peterson issue for Kansas?
First, let's set the record straight.
Set it straight.
Kansas was an underdog last season to Houston at home.
Okay, so my suspicion was accurate. Okay.
By 1.5 points. And so this is just a lesson for all the young people out there. You can't trust AI. I know it's out there and it looks easy.
Oh, gosh,
but if you Google AI, how many times has Bill Self ever been an underdog at home as the coach at Kansas? It does not mention that Houston game.
Why I have that, by the way, this is why I have that feature turned off on Google. You can turn off that AI auto response. So you don't get that nonsense. You don't get lied to. So yeah,
I got lied to, and then I lied to you. I got lied to, and then I lied to you.
Yep. Trust Norlander over AI. Let that be the lesson from this show.
You see those Diddy pictures, though?
Not a chance.
So here's the problem with the world today. We don't know what's real and what isn't. I got a buddy of mine. He's like, "Do you see those pictures of Diddy?" And I'm like, "Those are AI. They're not even real." He thought they were real. He thought he was looking at real pictures of Diddy. I was like, "Those aren't real pictures of Diddy. Those are made up pictures of Diddy." And now they got out here. They got Kansas being a favorite over Houston last season, even though Kansas wasn't very good and Houston was amazing. I don't know what to believe anymore on this internet.
Yeah, it could be a problem for the show, by the way.
I don't know what to do about this internet.
Yeah.
What do I think of UConn? I think they're great. Like, what are you talking about?
Where are they ranked right now?
I'm sorry?
Where do you have them ranked?
4th. I think I'm having 4th, but I mean, you could put them anywhere and justify it and say, yeah, they lost a game at home, but they were missing 2 of their best players. They're going to be right there at the end. I mean, keep in mind, I know Kansas didn't have Darren Peterson, but Kansas didn't have Darren Peterson in Las Vegas either, and went 3-0 out there. So,
but if he was on the floor last night, I think Kansas would have won.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Close game. I think Darren Peterson is that good. If he's on the floor, I think Kansas beats UConn last night. If with no Terrace Reed, I definitely think that would happen.
Perhaps. But he wasn't on the floor, and UConn, they got big shots down the stretch from Mullins already looks like he's in rhythm and, ready to go. Like there's not much of a, we got to get him up to speed type stuff. It looks like he's up to speed, and they're deep. They've got options at multiple options at different positions. They can get real big. They can play smaller. They've got a, if you told me right now, GP, I can see the future, and the future involves UConn winning a third national title in a 4-year span, I'd say, yeah, that makes sense. That's not a crazy thing to think. It's they're great. They look great.
I mean, Kansas came into the game averaging 76 and change, and UConn held them to 20 under their season average. They had been grabbing 40 boards a night. UConn held Kansas to 32 on the glass. Kansas was averaging 15 assists. It only had 8. So yes, a lot of this was UConn's doing. And by the way, like, we at least have to mention the fact that Jamar McDowell's take wasn't that great, but like even Eric Riba, who had 12 points, he had a key defensive play near the end. I don't know if that was the design of the draw, but in a spot where they needed a bucket, I didn't love that action. Regardless, credit to UConn for the win. The Peterson stuff will hit a. I have to believe he's going to play against Missouri on Sunday. Now, Kansas fans have settled into a real bed of cynicism here, thinking that he's just between Kentucky with Jalen Lowe and Kansas with Darren Peterson. They don't think their point guards are ever coming back. They think they're done. They think they're done for the year. They've already turned on the X-Files music and the conspiracy caps, and I think it's all over. I don't think that. Bill Self said afterward that Peterson is essentially his charges at 95%, and it was as much his call as it was Peterson's. Okay, if he returns for Missouri and he's good to go, great. I understand hamstrings can be a very delicate kind of thing. You don't want to mess with that, but they were hopeful that he would play in Vegas, and then he didn't. And then, he's been able to practice and move up and down the floor, and he's looked good, and he's been doing workouts. So this seems to be the last one. If he doesn't play at Missouri, then this becomes a bigger thing. It will definitely win or lose whatever Kansas does in that game on Sunday. If Darren Peterson is not on the floor for that game, then the story evolves into something else, into something different, because I'm not saying this is the case whatsoever, because I don't necessarily believe it at this stage, but there are already plenty of people that think that Peterson is just going to, if he can have any kind of load management situation and not chance his draft stock whatsoever, he's going to take advantage of that. I don't think that's fair to him personally. Let him speak on that when he is asked about it at his next press availability, whenever that comes. But also, this is turning into a very competitive race for the number 1 pick overall. And at a certain point, you sitting out of games is not going to increase your chances of being number 1. In fact, it will hurt your chances. So I don't necessarily buy into that angle of it, Parrish. But nevertheless, that discussion point is out there, and we'll see if he's able to play in the border war on Sunday. I do expect that to be the case. But by him not being on the floor last night, like if it was the tournament, got to believe he would have played, but it did cost him the game. I do believe that if Peterson, for as great as he is, even if he was at 95% instead of 100%, yes, I think Kansas would have won at home against UConn if he was available, but he sat out, and so they took the loss.
So it is interesting that Kentucky fans and Kansas fans, at least a portion of them, both believe, for whatever reasons, that their point guards are done.
Yes.
At Kentucky, you might be right. I don't know. Like I actually can. That one, I'd be like, okay, maybe. I just don't believe it with Darren Peterson, and I'm asking this from an honest place. What reason is there to believe that Darren Peterson will not play college basketball again? Give me a tangible reason to believe that. What is that based on?
I don't know. The only thing that I have that was told to me by one person is, if you go back and look at the way that Peterson's high school career played out, the impression that was given off for some was, at certain points, certain things were dictated by what he wanted. And I'm not even trying to overstate what he would have been at that level. I'm just saying this has been passed along to me in terms of everything had to be just right with everything there. And so I think there's some little past history with his high school stuff that is connected to this. But I don't subscribe to that, but it is out there.
It sounds to me like something like the sky is falling, and it's just what you start thinking. But when somebody says, "Why do you think that? What are you basing it on?" There's not a lot of something there.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't want to play college basketball, he didn't have to. All right. He didn't have to enroll at Kansas. He could have done literally anything for the next year and still probably been a top 3 pick in the draft. But he decided to go to Kansas, enroll, presumably, take classes and stuff. He has already played. I think he's just dealing with a hamstring injury. Like, I will take it at on a very surface level. I know you say you understand hamstrings are tough, but you don't know it like I know it. I'm a survivor of a torn hamstring. I've survived this. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. And the truth is, if you're not 100% at that level of athleticism, it just, you ding it again, and now you're out another 6 weeks, another 8 weeks. Perhaps this is because I follow an NBA franchise. I literally work for an NBA franchise and talk about it every day. This is just, these are the way hamstrings are handled. And it's only, I do think it would perhaps be beneficial for Darren Peterson to just, hold his hand up in the air and just say, I am going to play. Please stop speculating on this. He could do that any day if he wanted to quiet all of this down. I don't know why he won't or hasn't, but I don't believe that Darren Peterson has done at Kansas, because it logically doesn't make any sense. The thing that makes the most sense at KU right now is that he has a hamstring injury, and given he is worth hundreds of millions of dollars going forward, they're just being very careful with it. And given that everything in this sport is based on what you do in March, is why push it in December? That makes sense to me.
Yep. Hopefully he's on the floor for the Missouri game upcoming. We had the poll. Which result meant the most? UConn winning 39%, first place. Kentucky losing 26%. Carolina winning 18%, and then Florida being 5-3 comes in last at 18%. Let's tour around the rest of the results here from Tuesday. I think after the big three, you got to go to Syracuse. It wins a non-conference game against a ranked opponent for the first time since 2018. You heard me correct. Syracuse won a non-con game against a ranked opponent for the first time since 2018. That is a major win for Red Autry. It was the first non-con win at home. I had to double check this.
Yes.
Syracuse had not won a non-con game at home against a ranked opponent since Villanova in 2013. That was the first season that Syracuse was in the ACC. That's the last time a home Cuse crowd got to see a team outside of its league come into that building and Cuse walk out with the win. 12 years. Wild. Congrats to Syracuse. I did see them in person at Vegas, Players Era. They put on some truly spirited performances. They pushed Houston. They gave Kansas a game. They were in it early against Iowa State before that got to be a runaway, but they go home 0-3, and then they play another team that just so happened to be a Players Era. Tennessee takes the trip up, and Cuse gets the win. I don't know if this will be an NCAA tournament team or not, but on a night where the ACC got some good wins, I'll have more on that in just a second. It's just been a minute since Syracuse fans could really feel good about a real win, and they got one finally on Tuesday.
That was my main takeaway from that. Tennessee has now lost straight. I guess that's concerning on some level, but Syracuse has just been off of the national radar in any sort of meaningful way for a while. And it's not just all red. I mean, even the last year's a gym. I don't have it all right in front of me, but those last few years with Jim Boeheim were they were okay, or I think it just got disguised a little bit, because every once in a while he just pop into a Sweet 16 and you'd be like, hey, they were in the Sweet 16 2 years ago, but it got pretty mediocre for a while. And then obviously with Red, it hasn't taken off. And that was just for my entire life. I know I reference stuff like this all the time. It's probably an old man thing to do, but throughout my childhood, when I fell in love with this sport, Syracuse is a big brand, and they're just always there. And they haven't been lately. And it was just nice to see them have that moment. Not just that program, but that fan base. They play in a dome. They play home games in a dome. And that place hasn't felt or looked the way it used to feel or look in a little while, not consistently. So just to have them have that moment last night, that was a nice night for one of college basketball's best brands. And they haven't had a lot of nights like that lately.
Yeah, Cuse is now 5-3. That's their first notable win of the season. They've got an homage to Jim Boeheim coming up, because they play that game at home, and the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games all at home for Syracuse. The loyal faithful there will get to see their team on the schedule upcoming game after game after game. They will not go on the road until January 6th a match against Clemson. You mentioned it. I'll just repeat it. Tennessee has lost back-to-back games. They lost to Kansas. It was close out in Vegas, and then they lose this one. They've got Illinois, another orange-on-orange matchup in Nashville this weekend. So if you're in Nashville, you got Kentucky-Gonzaga Friday, and then Illinois-Tennessee on Saturday. That's a good little back-to-back there. We'll talk about those games on the Friday pod. How about what?
Oh, should we mention right here, if we haven't already, and I apologize if you did, but like the ACC did go 6-3 against the SEC last night.
We can go there right now if you want. Sure. And we'll save the Michigan State. Yes. The ACC went 6-3. I sorted some data, by the way.
Oh, look at you. Oh, because it's December now. I guess you can do that now.
Correct. Man. This is when you know what you're doing, you get behind the machine, get in, sort some data. You ready for this?
I guess.
ACC is ahead of the SEC in overall resume strength right now, according to Torvik. Wins above bubble. Bada boom. Big 12 is 1.
Okay, you ready for this? This
This
is what I love.
ACC is 3. SEC is 4, and then the Big East is a distant 5th.
Okay, explain how wins above bubble is calculated.
I mean, this isn't hard. Do you know what it means and how it's calculated?
Say again.
Do you know what wins above bubble is and what it means and how it's calculated?
I know it's a metric that gets referenced all the time, but I think it falls under the category that I was talking about earlier, where most people, it's like something that people throw out there, but most people who reference it don't know what it means. I'm not trying to pop quiz you. If it
Are you saying I don't know what wins above bubble means?
No, I'm just saying that it's one of those things that I don't think what makes that number work. I don't think most people understand that. That's what I'm trying to say, but I'm not trying to pop.
It is a formula that determines how well you have played against your schedule versus what the average bubble team would do in a given season in a college basketball universe unto itself. So
the main point I was trying to make earlier is there's all of these different numbers out there. And do you subscribe to all of them blindly? Do you just go, well, somebody created that formula and it says that this thing is great, so it must be great?
No, of course not.
I know, but people do.
Are you one of those people?
I'm not one of those people. I'm a hamstring survivor, but I'm not one of those people.
Okay. I mean, when you start sorting data on November 9th, I kind of feel like you're one of those people.
I was sorting data on November 4th. I want to be clear.
Exactly. Point is, the ACC is now 3rd, just based on pure resume strength right now, collectively as a league. It is ahead of the SEC after what it did last night. It leads the ACC-SEC challenge, although the games, which we'll get to in a few here, I think are more in favor of the SEC for night 2 of that matchup. But yes, they did get it done. You had teams that were underdogs that won. Virginia Tech on the road at South Carolina wins an OT. Miami on the road against Mississippi gets it done. Notre Dame at home over Missouri also wins to help the ACC's case overall. So yes, very, very good gains. It wasn't all good. Oklahoma went and just knocked the snot out of Wake Forest. Game was close. I turn it on. I look up 3 minutes later and Oklahoma's up 15. What are we doing here?
Right.
And strange but true, last night was the first time since 1993 that Oklahoma played a game on the road in the ACC. Just wild that they would go that long, a power conference team, without playing an ACC team in their building. But strange but true, but that is the case. Oklahoma was able to beat Wake Forest and get that done. So, good gains for the ACC. We'll see what they can do here on Wednesday night. But the league collectively, it's funny. We talked about this on Sunday, and I'll have more on this in the court report today. The SEC was, a pretty firm 3rd, and it's still, I think, overall, you could say the SEC, if you want to place them ahead of the ACC, if you want to make that case, I still think you can. But it's been a good few days here for that league to get the wins that it's been able to get and make a real bump up. Any thoughts on that before a couple of Big Ten stuff and then look?
Well, ahead? I mean, you just contrast it. I really do think it was this time last season when the whole is the SEC the best conference in the history of men's basketball started to take off, and it was because of what they did to the ACC in this event. What, 2-14?
Yes, that's what it was, 2-14.
Yeah, you're right. So for the ACC to bounce back, these types of made-for-television events, they can help shape narratives because we're all sitting around watching these games. Last night was a perfect, if you've got 3 screens, turn them all on. If you've got 6, turn them all on type of night. And, these events can shape the story connected to your league. And so last night was a terrific night for the ACC. You can argue that, individually Cameron Boozer had the biggest night, or as a team, UConn got the biggest win, whatever. But perhaps broadly speaking, who had the best Tuesday night in the sport? The Atlantic Coast Conference, you could reasonably argue.
All right, let's talk two Big Ten results. Michigan State has no issue whatsoever against Iowa, which to me was eye-opening. I thought Michigan State would win, but it was a wire-to-wire, like two different teams on two different levels kind of situation. Iowa had not lost a game going in. This was its first real test. MSU is now 8-0 for the first time since 2015-16. That team started 13-0. And Iowa now has an 8-game losing streak against top 10 teams. They haven't won one against a top 10 squad since the 2022 Big Ten tournament championship game when they beat then number 9 Purdue. Jeremy Fears continues to operate as top 3-point guard. If you want to put him right there with Braden Smith, I wouldn't argue with you whatsoever. Right now, numbers refreshed. Jeremy Fears, 9.4 assists per game. That leads the nation, by the way, in assists per game, and on top of 12.3 points, 3.4 boards. He's shooting 42% from 3-point range. He's not a breakout player because he was a quality player going into this, but I think he is the biggest riser in college basketball in terms of a player who has jumped into that top tier that was not seen in that top tier and probably not a tier below that going into the season. Many reasons why Izzo's team is really, really good again, but Fears is the straw that stirs that drink.
No question. And he's going to be in the All-American conversations but in part because of, leader, best player on, a top 10 team that's got a shot to win a conference championship. I know Purdue and Michigan is getting most of the attention in the Big Ten right now, and rightfully so. I do believe those are the two best teams in the Big Ten, but Michigan State's going to probably be a more meaningful part of that conversation than some anticipated in the offseason. They look the part, and they've stacked multiple good wins so far. Before we look ahead real quick, USC 82, Oregon 77. That was late night. Oregon shorthanded, but still year 2 Eric Musselman in Los Angeles off to a terrific start. And remember, just like every other team in the country, they're shorthanded as well because they got a 5-star freshman who still isn't playing.
Well, okay. So a couple things on USC. One, where do you have them right now in your rankings?
I moved them up this morning. Let me see exactly where they would be. But they're definitely in there, and I think as of this morning would have them up to, let's call it, number 24.
Okay. You prepared to have them in your top 10 eventually?
Do I think USC will be in the top 10 eventually?
Yeah.
I'm not going to rule it out, but I would, if I had to bet a paycheck on it, I'd bet no.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. So they win this game. They didn't have Rodney Rice either, by the way. He was a shoulder issue. He didn't play in the game, and they win it on the road against an Oregon team that, oh boy, I thought would be comfortably in the NCAA tournament conversation. And now the Ducks are 4-4. They've lost 4 in a row. They went 0-3 at Players Era, but USC wins the Maui event. Now it gets the road win against Oregon without Rodney Rice. You look at that schedule. Next game is home against Washington. Then they're at San Diego, Musselman's alma mater. That's why they're playing a road game. I love to see that. Home against Washington State, home against UTSA, home against Brown. They're probably going to get to the end of 2025 without an L on the schedule. They're probably going to go 9, 10, 11, 12. They'll go 13-0 in non-league play heading into maybe the biggest game of the first weekend of 2026 when they open. Well, I say open up league play. That's not accurate. They're in the middle of league play right now, but league play in earnest. They'll play at Michigan the first Friday of 2026, that first weekend, and that could be the biggest game of that weekend. But I do think there's a very real chance that USC is one of the 2 or 3 remaining undefeated teams. There's a chance that Michigan versus USC is an unbeaten matchup a month from now, and Michigan could be number 1 then. And I think if USC gets to that mark, GP 13-0 by New Year's Eve, with other results coming, I could see you somehow getting them into top 10. So I'm giving you the heads up.
Yeah,
looking out for you weeks ahead. I understand a lot of people haven't glanced at the USC schedule, but it is setting up for Muss's team to not take a scratch until we flip the calendar.
No, that's interesting with the schedule. I'm not certain just being undefeated heading into Michigan would actually get them into the top 10, because it would still be 13 wins, none of which have come against ranked opponents,
Yeah.
none of which would have come against currently.
They might not have a top 50 opponent
Yeah.
by the time they do that. So
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure it gets them in the top 10, but like it could. And either way, they're off to a tremendous start, 8-0 through 8 games. You want to look ahead before we get out of here real quick? All right, let's do that next. But first, I need one more word from our partners.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
Big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Right, before we get out of here, let's look ahead to the next couple of nights, which really just means Wednesday night because Thursday night sucks. Wednesday night's cool, though. Let's run through the list of games. You tell me what interests you. 7 o'clock Eastern tonight, number 22, Indiana at Minnesota. That's another Big Ten opener. It's on the Big Ten Network. 7:15 Eastern, number 6, Louisville at number 25, Arkansas. That's on ESPN. 7:15 Eastern, Clemson at number 12, Alabama, ESPNU. 9:15 Eastern, undefeated SMU at number 17, undefeated Vanderbilt. That's on the SEC Network. 9:15 Eastern, NC State at number 20, Auburn. That's on ESPN. What stands out to you?
Quite clearly, Louisville, Arkansas is the big game of the night. We talked about this in the offseason. We couldn't have just take one of last night's games. Take Carolina, Kentucky.
I know.
I'm asking for one of them. Just drop it here. Spread the love out a little. It is what it is. They did what they did. Whatever. Circle back to that in just a second here. But Vandy, SMU, 2-8-0 teams trying to get to 9-0. SMU has not been 9-0 since the season in which it had the postseason ban under Larry Brown. They got off to an 18-0 start. That was a decade ago, by the way. Vandy's last 9-0 start came in 07-08. That was the A.J. Ogilvy Shan Foster team. So it's been a minute. One of those teams is guaranteed to get to 9-0. I'll have my eyes trained on that for sure. That's a really nice, really good matchup there. NC State at Auburn also is a game that I'm intrigued by. Auburn has, showed itself well. Auburn's also in the midst of NC State wouldn't necessarily qualify for this, but Stephen Pearl in his first season may well have to face 4 teams that prove to be Final Four teams or 1 or 2 seeds this season. So he didn't sign up for it, but that's what it is. He's got Houston, Michigan, and then Arizona and Purdue are still to come. And by the way, you got NC State and Will Wade coming to town tonight. We'll see what the Wolfpack can do after losing 2 at Maui. The biggest game of the night, quite clearly, is Louisville at Arkansas. Louisville's yet to take a loss. This is the program's best start since 2019-20. They are top 5 in scoring. Louisville's dropping more than 96 a game. There is a chance if both coaches really let these guys go, like we could have a 1st and 90 situation. I'd really like to see that. A lot of talent. Michael Brown Jr. has been awesome, but he doesn't lead Louisville in scoring. That's Ryan Conwell, who's been really terrific. Arkansas needs to get a win here at home in a good spot. The Hogs are 1-8 against AP ranked opponents that are in the top 10 under Cal. So he's had a lot of opportunities because of how good the SEC was last season, but only 1 win. And I don't know if the win at Kentucky was the 1 win. I honestly can't remember which one was the 1 win there. But Arkansas, let's see the offense show up here. Give us a really entertaining game. That's by far the biggest appeal on a solid Wednesday night, but not quite what Tuesday had to offer.
Yeah, I mean, here's a testament to how good Louisville is and how good Louisville's been this season. They're 3.5-point favorites at Bud Walton Arena. I'm going to ask AI how many times John Calipari has been more than a 3-point underdog at home in his career. See what do you think? What do you think it'll spit out? Probably something wrong.
A picture of a cat riding a bike.
Probably more pictures of Diddy. I'll be like, how many times has John Calipari been an underdog by 3 or more points at home in his career? And they just spit out fake pictures of Diddy. The internet's wild, man. I don't know how much time you spend on it, but it's crazy.
I'm aware.
I don't know that you really are. So Wednesday night should be fun. Thursday night, nothing. I mean, that's a good night to watch season 2 of Landman, streaming now on Paramount Plus.
Sure. Before we get out of here, Josh, can we have that tweet that got sent this morning? I want to see if Parrish is in the mood for this or not, if he's ready for it. So UConn gets the win. Someone's giving us some love for them Spotify rap. For my reward this year, he said, back on top, one of us.
Okay.
This fan, this is Pat Lenihan. in our top 1% in terms of Spotify listens. For my reward this year, I'd like GP to attempt a husky sound on this morning pod.
A husky sound. I don't think with an upper respiratory infection I can.
Is that what you have?
Yeah, it's an upper respiratory infection. I've completely recovered from a torn hamstring. Not an issue anymore. But now I'm battling an upper respiratory infection. And I mean, I'm battling it. I don't think I'm prepared to do a husky impersonation, but I could practice one and pull one off when I feel a little more up to it. I'm going to get Bill Self to release a statement about my attempt to do a husky.
And just have it in Kansas typeface.
Yes.
Bill Self directly addressing Parrish's inability to provide a husky sound on the
I want Bill Self to release a statement that's on social media that says Gary will not do a husky impersonation today. He has been working his butt off.
Yeah, well, I have the statement in front of me right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to replace everything he said about Peterson with GP. It's going to say Gary is not going to do the husky impression today. He is very close. He has worked his butt off, but he is still not 100%. He is day to day, end quote.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's my statement as it pertains to my inability.
No, your statement. It's Bill's Self statement.
I know, but I co-sign it. I would retweet it. If he would tweet that, I would retweet it because it's the truth. DP and GP are not. You got to be careful with those initials. That was tough. Darren Peterson and myself, we're both day to day. We're both day to day. All right. And we're going to be back soon. Don't worry, Kansas fans. Darren Peterson's going to play for you again. I believe that. And don't worry, UConn fans. I'll perfect the husky impersonation at some point.
I look forward to it.
I do too.
I very much look forward to it. There we go. There's a little throwback.
All right. I think it's
GP and GP going through it. Living the same life in 2025.
We have a.
That's true. Parrish is on the pod, thankfully.
I'm playing through my stuff.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. Darren Peterson's got more to lose than I do. What do I really have to lose at this point?
That's right.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that, and we will talk to you again real soon. Till then,